Okay, first of all, I do apologize the fact that this video is a little bit late. I was supposed to make this video on Thursday when they announced the roster move for the Quakes, but unfortunately, like the Quakes, whenever they decide to dick punch their fans, they did the roster move so late that it just got to a point where it was released in the worst time possible. I mean, doing Thursday, I have to do the review for the Leg 2 conference final, and I also had to do the Sports Hop series episode, and the following day I had to do the same, so that leave me to today is finally the day I get a chance to look at the roster move, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have already looked at it and already have your opinions about it. I'm obviously going to be sharing my opinions about some of these moves because, there was definitely some that I felt like is a little bit surprising, and there are some that I kind of knew it was gonna happen. And also, by the way, the players that is under contract right now, just because they are under contract right now and that they're gonna be in the roster for the 2019 season, doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to be in it. They can still be traded to another club. And I think Magnus Eriksson is probably one of those guys that could be traded to another club since there's been a lot of rumor that he's going to go back to Sweden. And clubs can still cut those players, although I think it does come with a bit of a cost. So just because all these guys are under contract doesn't mean that they are guaranteed to be there next season. So yeah, without further ado, let's actually talk about the contract option that were exercised. And there was only 5 players that the Quakes decided to exercise the contract option. Those 5 guys are Matt Bresciano, Howard Cummins, Paul Murray, Jimmy Ockford, and Kevin Partida. I don't think any of them kind of surprised me. I think maybe this one is a little bit surprising, mainly because I didn't think Ockford was that good last season, and maybe he was one of those guys that might get cut. I don't think Kevin Partida was going to get cut, mainly because he was injured for a majority of the season, and I think he torn his ACL right around the first half of last season, and it would be kind of harsh for us to let him go, considering the fact that Partida did show some promising early on before he went down. And, Matt Bresciano, he looked like he was supposed to be the backup goalkeeper for us, which I'll tell you why he isn't now, and he's going to stay as a third-string goalkeeper. And Howard Cummins, he also spent a couple of time on the IR, and Paul Murray, just not enough sample sizes that I think we should just keep him for another year to see how it goes. Contract option that would decline. Jefferson Quintana, Jamir Hika, Chris Wehan, Danny Musvetsky, and Mohamed Fly. Now, this is there are some contract that would decline by the Quakes. The decision that they made is a little bit surprising, and I think the most surprising one is this one, the Jamir Hika one. And it's sad that Jamir Hika is no longer going to be with the club, considering the fact that he was one of my favorite player, and I was very hyped when he was signed with us. And in the first season he did very well. The second season though, yeah, that was a different story. Although a lot of that has to do with the fact that he had a big injury that he had to endure throughout the season. I think it was like a leg injury, and just ever since he come back from that injury, he just kind of doesn't look like the same. And also the fact that the last season, the manager that we were under throughout last season just decided not to pick him whatsoever, even though that was a reliable option. Although I think maybe the biggest reason why we decided to decline Hika's option is because he just takes up too much in terms of the salary. I think he was under right about $500K in terms of the salary, and with us getting rid of some of those heavy kind of salary that some of our players are earning, and probably those are the players that usually are not playing on the pitch and not performing, and they're carrying that heavy salary, those are the players that we'll probably try to get rid of. Although, having said that, there are also some salary over here that kind of is heavy, and I don't know why in the world did the team decide to not either buy back down their salary or just straight out decline their contract option in terms of some of these players that is under contract list. But yeah, it's kind of sad that Jahmir Hika is now no longer a member of the Quakes. Jefferson Quintana, that shouldn't be a surprise that he got his contract option declined. I know a lot of people were kind of surprised that he is leaving, but let's not forget that when he came to the Quakes, he was only on a loan move with his Uruguayan club, and the Quakes did have, I believe, a $1 million buyout clause. And knowing how Quintana did this season and how in the latter part of the season he didn't even make it into the starting 11 and he was dropping down the pecking order in terms of that center back row, there was no way the Quakes are gonna exercise that buyout clause and just pay Quintana $1 million for that. So it was pretty clear that he was going to be gone. Chris Wehan, same thing. He didn't really perform that well this season. He didn't really see much playing time, so he's also gone. And then these are the 2 draft picks that we had last season. And in some way, I'm kind of disappointed the fact that the 2 draft picks that we chose last season, we just immediately waved them off. So these 2 players, they rarely play for the team. I don't even think Mohamed Flower actually even had a single minute wearing the Quake shirt and play in an MLS game or even in a US Open Cup game. So, those 2 players, it looked like they were just not good enough, so that's why we decided to waive them out. Now, in terms of the players that is under contract, there is a lot of player that is under contract. And you notice I put some of the players with a star next to it. The star means that these are the players that received new contract based on reaching certain performance threshold in 2018 or had their 2019 option exercised. And I probably should have got rid of this first part because, let's face it, nobody in this team actually reached their certain performance threshold in 2018. I mean, when you have a 4-win team and when you have everybody that is underachieving, it's kind of laughable to say that there are certain players that actually reach their performance threshold in 2018, which is where I'm also going to point out some of the biggest surprises in terms of guys that we brought back. So, first of all, we have the players that is going to be under contract are JT Marcinkowski. Not surprising that he's be back, as I think he's going to be our number 1 for next season. And then this is where the first surprise and maybe the biggest surprise of them all. Andrew Tarbell is coming back to this team. And I honestly don't understand why exactly we decided to bring him back. Like, I thought after what happened last season and the fact that we had a chance to waive him off in terms of the contract option, we decided to keep him. I mean, I don't know why we decided to do it. And, I know last season, near the beginning of the season, where a lot of the season ticket holder gets a chance to go to this open training and also ask the GM of the Quakes, Jesse Forinelli, about some of the move. You bet that that's going to be one question that I'm going to be asking. Why in the world did we decide to bring back Andrew Tarbell, even though it's clear as daylight that he was not good enough for this team? He's not even good enough for any MLS team or even in the USL with the way that he played last season. So it doesn't make any sense, and there's got to be some reason why we decided to bring him back. And then other guys that we brought him back, other guys that we brought back include Francois Affolter, Jacob Eckenrich, Goran Kashia, Nick Lima, again with a star. And I think this one probably is one of those players that actually reached certain performance threshold. I mean, Lima didn't really had a good season last year, but he wasn't like he was, I think, one of our best player in this team, and when you're one of the best player on this team, I guess that may be the definition of reaching certain performance threshold in 2018. Joel Kleber is also coming back, and then the other surprise, Shea Salinas, coming back for another year. And I think maybe the reason why he decided to come back is in case we don't sign a left back, then we're gonna potentially have to put him in that left back role. And I'm assuming we're definitely gonna sign a left back in the off season, because that is the biggest Achilles heel and the only position where we just have nobody with quality or no natural left back that actually can play in that position. Shea Salinas is not a natural left back, but yet we keep playing him at that position thinking it's okay. Joel Kleber, another guy that he kind of is a natural left back, but he wasn't even playing for majority of the time last season. And I think maybe Joel Kleber is another guy that is a bit surprised that we brought him back, but I'm guessing he was already under contract, so that's why he has to bring back, and we can't just release him straight away. And then other guys that we brought back: Eric Carvalho, Magnus Eriksson, like I said earlier about how he potentially could be heading back to Sweden. Luis Felipe, Gilbert Fuentes, Annabelle Godoy. Godoy is a guy that I ridicule a lot last season, and unfortunately, as much as I really want him to be gone by this season, his contract is not up until, I believe, 2021. So we're stuck with Godoy for another 3 years, unfortunately. And then Florian Jungwirth is another guy that is going to come back. Obviously, I did a video of this a couple of days ago about Jungwirth. His contract has been exercised by the Quakes. It was the first player that was actually announced that would be coming back for next season and that had his contract option exercised. Tommy Thompson, another guy that has his contract option exercised. Vako, Jackson Yule, Danny Houston, Chris Wondolowski rounds up the players that is going to be under contract next season. And Wando, I think he had his contract option exercise, and I kind of haven't found any news on the Quakes website or on the Reddit page talking about whether or not did Wando now his contract is going to be much less than the one that he earned in the previous season, because he was on, I believe, a DP contract, and there was a lot of people saying that we are going to potentially buy down his contract so we can maybe get a free slot in the DP area. But there hasn't been any news about whether or not if Wando has buy back down his contract and that he's no longer a DP on this team and that we have now got that DP slot wide open. So yeah, those are the players that is going to be under contract for this season, and the only player that will not be under contract and have his contract run out is Dominic Oduro, which shouldn't be a big surprise because Oduro, I always thought that he was basically he's almost like a half-season loan for us, where we're basically just going to loan him for half-season and then he'll be out of the door by the end of the season. But yeah, that is pretty much it in terms of the roster move for the Quakes. And like I said, as I mentioned earlier in this video, all these players that is under contract, it doesn't mean that they will be guaranteed to be in the roster next season. There will still be a chance where some of these guys might get traded to other clubs, or the fact that maybe they will get cut by the team. And also for those guys that have their contract option declined, I think they will either go back to their club, which Jefferson Quintana is going to go back to his Uruguayan club after his loan option ended, and all these guys will probably be either in the re-entry draft or the waiver draft. I think Hika is probably going to be in, or actually no, all of these players are going to be in the waiver draft because all of these guys haven't got like enough MLS kind of experience where they would just go straight into the re-entry draft. And I don't really kind of want to explain thoroughly about how the re-entry draft and the waiver draft kind of works, because I'm still kind of a little bit confused about that. The basic thing I know about the re-entry and waiver draft is that I know in the waiver draft, player get to be in the waiver draft if they don't have specific year of MLS experience, which usually is the case for a lot of those youngsters and a lot of those guys that are drafted in the MLS Super Draft, and that the very next season the team decides to waive them, they go straight into the waiver draft. And then the re-entry draft are where the players that has that experience in MLS, and they of course will go into that draft if their team of course waived them. And I think that is probably the basic thing that I know about both of those drafts. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more advanced kind of explanation of how exactly it works, and if you want to learn more about that, you can just go to MLSsoccer.com or just Google it. Just Google MLS waiver draft and re-entry draft, and you can find out how it works. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the roster move. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the roster move the Quakes have made? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.